Art Sims to the program. Art, thanks for coming.
Oh, Brad, thanks for you guys having me.
Absolutely. Now, your resume is too extensive for me to even attempt to give it justice. So can you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself?
Well, Brad, I've been involved in sports and entertainment since the late 90s. A lot in the NFL, National Basketball Association, and also in music, film, and video.
Very cool. What do you think about the status of professional sports today? Things like salaries, safety's become a big issue, especially in the NFL. And, what's sort of the pulse of the program there?
Well, we see a whole lot of activity going on now in the NFL in particular. I mean, today you see a lot of stress from Roger Goodell in terms of concussions and safety for athletes. Those things are a very hard balancing act. You want to make sure the game is safe, but you also want to make sure the game has some integrity and stays the same and is exciting. And I think that it's a really big issue to balance out safety of the players as well as the intensity, the flow of the game. And that's a big challenge.
Definitely. I'm thinking also the game seems to be changing as well. And I think there needs to be sort of a paradigm shift. The NFL days of old where it was just about smash mouth football and leather helmets, I mean, those days are kind of over. I mean, I think they're literally trying to change the game to make it safer. What do you think about that stuff?
Well, definitely I agree. I think that there's a lot more emphasis on the mobile quarterback. You see RG3 in Washington, D.C., you see the guy in Seattle, you see the Niners running the same kind of a pistol offense, and there's a lot more finesse in the industry. And I think that with that issue, left tackles, always important in an NFL game, and the issue of being able to maintain the speed of the game. A lot more finesse, a lot less emphasis on the running game and the bruiser backs, and the guys coming out nowadays are better athletes across the board.
I agree. And I also think that you're starting to see some changes also at the college level as well. And I think they're sort of trying to get the college athletes conditioned possibly so that when they get into the NFL, they're already sort of there. And because there's a lot of fines going on nowadays. What do you think about all those fines that are being imposed? I mean, is that a good way to go?
Well, a lot of my clients are not happy about that. I mean, I think that it's you want to have a safe game, but there has to be a balance between what the league is doing and what the athletes are giving up. Athletes play the game at full speed, and it's hard to make that judgment call. You want to be safe. You want to make the game safer. But it's hard finding guys like Harrison in Pittsburgh a couple $100,000 for a hit at full speed in the game, and yet you still have the long seasons, the long practices, and those issues. So there's a balancing act there. I know the NFL has concerns about losing revenue from certain seasons and preseasons, but I think that overall there has to be a balance on the league's part and the athlete's part.
Yeah, and I think it's there's a lot of subjectivity in it as well because, at that speed, I think a lot of people make illegal hits inadvertently, and they're being fined as if it was intentional. And I think that that's sort of a wrong way to go about it, and hopefully they can get that sort of thing addressed.
Well, definitely I agree, and I think also there's also self-preservation. You got guys like me who play defensive back who don't necessarily want to hit Agent Peterson up high, but
right.
That's the issue. To want to make sure you hit in a certain zone now from the waist up, and we're used to hitting on those ankles and in those areas where you can get these guys down a lot faster and quicker and to preserve your own safety.
Sure.
So there's a balance of those issues every day.
Yeah, I think in the NFL, safety's become such an important highlight. What do you think about other sports? I mean, are there any safety things going on in NBA, or is there anything going on with baseball league or anything else as far as safety or changes in the sports?
Well, definitely baseball has a real big issue. A lot of athletes are getting hit by more and more pitches. A lot of pitchers getting hit by line drives and causing a lot of damage, skull damage and those issues. And the issue now is whether or not we should wear helmets. What kind of helmets we should wear to change the game. And I think that's going to be a big issue in the future.
I think I even saw recently they had some sort of a high-tech something inside the pitcher's hat. I mean, have you seen that too?
Yeah, I saw there's some kind of gel or some kind of substance that kind of spreads out the impact.
Right.
Pitchers don't like it. They say they don't get a lot of vision and it makes them feel uncomfortable. And an athlete has to feel comfortable when they're playing the game.
Right.
So once again, a balancing act in the whole process. You want them safe, but it's a rare occasion that it happens. But when it happens, it's very dramatic. And
Sure.
guys like you see those injuries, and you want to prevent them if you can.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, switching gears a little bit from the safety thing, what do you think about as far as salaries go and making trades and the business of sports? You obviously have a lot of insight into that aspect, and people like me, the average Joe, we don't get to see the business side of sports. So, what do you give me some thoughts about that aspect of it?
Well, I mean, sports is a business, and they have to deal with issues that come up within the parameters of the game. You know, in the NFL, we saw a lot of activity today with athletes who were very good quality athletes who were traded or let go or cut to get under the cap. And that's an issue that general managers have to deal with every day. You don't want to let players go you've been with a long period of time. They are family, they're important to you, and they're great contributors to the team. However, you have to provide for the long-term success of the program and of the actual team. And so you have, like Anquan Bolden gets traded from Baltimore today, and he goes over to another team, and he just had a great Super Bowl.
Yep.
That's a big loss. But the general manager and the team has to have the ability to keep the salary cap within a certain boundary and to replenish the team and make it younger and better. So it's part of the game. We don't like it. You know,
Right.
we love the big contracts, and my clients love them, and agents love them as well.
Right.
But we have to understand that each team has their own different cap issue and own different needs for the future.
Yeah. Do you think that the cap issue and then the big salaries and things like that, people having to be moved around for financial purposes, I mean, do you think that makes a team weaker? Do you think overall it kind of balances out and it ends up being okay because everybody's sort of doing the same thing?
Well, you know, it depends on how good your general manager is. You know,
Right.
certain guys do it better than others. I mean, you see guys who run organizations like the Patriots, the Ravens, those guys. I mean, Ozzie Newsome and the Ravens, you know, Hall of Fame tight end. He's drafted guys like Ray Lewis, like Jonathan Ogden, you know, cornerstones of teams that really do a great job. And other teams, not so well. So I think that, you know, the issue really comes down to how great can you prognosticate how good a player is going to be. You know, and some luck, too, as well. You know, a long career like Ray Lewis for 14, 15, 16 years is not the usual thing that happens.
Right.
And to have a nucleus of a team like that, we have Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, the defensive line, those things, that's not normal. So there's a little luck, but a lot of skill and a lot of hard work and a lot of planning.
Yeah, you know, I think another portion that you probably see that most people don't understand when the NFL guys or these pro athletes get these multi-million-dollar contracts, you know, most people are like, that's ridiculous that these guys make so much money. But there's a lot more that goes to that. And for instance, like you'd mentioned, most people's careers don't last that long. So, I mean, these guys have, I don't know, maybe 10 years as a professional athlete, and then they're done. And they've got to use all that money that they've made and hopefully make that last the rest of their lives. So, you know, there's a lot of stuff like that goes into it as well, correct?
Well, correct. And most people don't understand that the athlete's career normally is very short. I mean, most of your athletes may play 2 or 3 years at the most. You know, you're a normal everyday guy. And there's a lot of revenue that's generated by these sports and these franchises. And of course, when you have that kind of generation of income, the athletes have to have a fair share at the table. So yes, there's a lot of risk, a lot of pain, suffering, a lot of discipline, a lot of sacrifice, and those things are very important in these contracts. And the big ones you see in the news from Peyton Manning or Ray Lewis or another guy, the big millions of dollars, you know, those things don't come with all guarantees either.
That's right.
Especially in the NFL. In basketball, a little bit different, but still, you have a long, grinding season. You have a lot of injuries. You have a lot of time away from your family, time away from what you would love to do otherwise than your job. And it's important to make sure they're rewarded economically.
Definitely, and especially when you're dealing with professional athletes, these guys are at risk of getting hurt. I mean, this could be like not only career ending, but I mean, it could be something they have to live with, a disability for the rest of their lives. So, and they're doing that for our entertainment. So I think that there's definitely, you know, some of that needs to be understood when people are getting big contracts, and that's obviously part of what you do as well.
Well, definitely, and it's big business. I mean, like anything else, if you have a product that makes a lot of revenue, they're going to be high salaries. If you're Apple or you're Microsoft and your product makes a whole lot of money, you're going to have high compensated CEOs and executives and people who develop software. You have athletes with very high skill sets and they're healthy and they contribute to the team and you're making billions of dollars, it makes sense that they would get paid that kind of money because they make the product better.
Sure. And getting sort of on the topic, but way off topic, what do you think about collegiate sports? Because I know there's a lot of debate about, you know, these collegiate athletes are making their programs hundreds of millions of dollars or what have you, but they're not seeing anything from that. What do you think about that? And is it fair? And should there be some kind of compensation for a college athlete?
Well, you know what? I have a soft spot for college athletes, and I've lived that experience. My family has as well, and I know how that balance has to be looked at and readjusted. Now, I'm a big proponent of somehow finding a way to compensate an athlete fairly. Listen, if you're a great student and you are great in chemistry or math, there's no prohibition from you going out and making a living while you're in college or getting a benefit from your skill. I think that athletes should have the same possibility because they can't go out and work a second job.
Right.
You know, football or baseball or whatever it is their job in school. And yes, it's a good education, and it's a great education. However, it still doesn't seem fair that an athlete who plays in a stadium that seats 100,000 people can't afford to buy a hot dog in the same stadium. So, or wash their clothes after the game. And that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
So I think that there should be a way to work out somehow or another, giving them compensation, at least a living wage, so they can put gas in their car, go home, see mom and dad.
Right.
They can wash clothes. They can buy food when the table is closed. Those things seem to be fair. In particular, since we make so much money off of college athletes,
Right.
you know, hundreds of millions of dollars for these big conferences. So it seems to be a fair industry.
I completely agree. Well, I think that's pretty awesome, and I appreciate your insight, and it's great to have you on the show.
Definitely great having you.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Well, I wanted to say thank you, everybody, for watching athletesaddiction.tv, and I especially want to thank my guest, Mr. Art Sims, for coming on the show. Also, a special thank you goes out to Robin and Erika for obviously the coming on the show, but also starting the whole thing and being responsible for Athletes Addiction. We appreciate your time and hope you enjoyed the program, and we hope to see you back here very soon.